Hey Emma,
Yes, Madelyn.
what do I do every time I log into Twitter?
I don't know. What do you do?
Judge all humans! Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
And bots, I guess. Judge all humans and bots.
That was a pretty good one.
Thanks. Wow.
So far as your jokes go, it was a pretty good one.
Wow! I think it's the highest praise I've ever got. Every once in a while you actually laugh, so I'll put that above this, but wow. I'm gonna have to, cut that audio and put it somewhere and save it for a rainy day.
Put the sound wave on your wall as a poster to inspire you.
That was pretty good. Yeah. Well, thanks for tuning in. I'm your pretty good host, Madelyn.
I'm your pretty great host, Emma.
Yikes. And this is Talk This, where this week we are going to be talking about classic, or cult classic, as they're trying to bill it to me now anyway, video game, Destroy All Humans, and new game that is definitely not a Yakuza game, Judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So we're excited to be talking with you about these on this cold January day. Here at Sunday at 12 p.m. It's still a cold January day, but boy was it a cold January day all this week.
Remember when it was 70 degrees last week?
Remember when no one could just sit back and enjoy that? Remember when everyone was like, it's global warming.
You know what? It's just, both of them upset me. How about that?
Fair enough. That's going to be pretty sad for you. You can't enjoy the good weather, you hate the bad weather.
I can only enjoy the good weather, in the fall and spring when there's supposed to be good weather.
Well, fair enough. Speaking of things that are going to destroy all humans one day, Destroy All Humans.
In that case, it's not a man-made disaster, though.
Well, yeah, I know. I didn't say speaking of man-made disasters.
I didn't say that. I was just introducing the concept. I was bringing it further so that you could transition into talking about what the game's about, which is not about global warming. But no, you have to take it as an insult.
How far we've fallen from you telling me my joke was pretty good 2 minutes ago.
Please tell us about Destroy All Humans, Madelyn.
I will. Destroy All Humans is a 2005 game from Pandemic Studios, published by THQ. That's a parody of, well, really the 1950s in general, but especially of, Cold War era alien invasion films and those sorts of tropes. It's the first in a series. There were 4 of them that were released over that sort of 2005 to 2008 span. For various systems. The original came out for PlayStation 2 and Xbox, and so did the sequel, and then there was a 3rd game on the Wii, and then a 4th game that came out for the next generation of consoles, and then the series lay dormant for a while, probably because THQ kind of fell apart, and sort of sold off all of their assets. But now, there's a reboot coming, because of course there is, this year sometime, from Black Forest Studios, and THQ Nordic, everyone's favorite public relations savvy publisher.
Yes. Of 8chan fame. In fame? In fame.
In fame.
But yeah, as you mentioned, it's a parody of the alien invasion, so sort of as the name implies, you're an alien who's landed on Earth, not necessarily with the intention of destroying all humans, at first, at least.
Your goal, you play as the alien from the race, the Furon race. Your name is Cryptosporidium 137, aka Crypto. And you're here to gather furon DNA from human brain stems, because, like, way back in ancient times, the furons landed on Earth for a while, and so it turns out that people have a little bit of furon DNA in their brain stems,
Right.
because the furons were, like, ruined by some kind of nuclear explosion accident, and now they've mutated so that the only way they can reproduce is through cloning themselves. But of course, by endlessly cloning yourself, eventually there start to be some problems. So they need this uncorrupted furon DNA that's residing in the brain stems of humans. So you would think, right, yeah, you would not want to destroy all of the humans, at least before you've gotten the requisite amount of DNA.
Yeah. But yeah, they landed on Earth, you know, just like in real life when they built the pyramids and Stonehenge and such.
Oh, exactly.
Right, yeah. That's what the History Channel's told me.
It's a very historically accurate game, according to the very historically accurate History Channel.
But I don't think, despite the name, like, your original missions aren't necessarily to, like, destroy all humans from the start. You're, like, harvesting brain stems, and you also have tools that, like, you can read their minds, or you can take over their minds, or you can, like, temporarily disguise yourself as a human by, like, copying them. But those are just the missions, and a lot of the gameplay is more in the GTA type tradition, in which you're sort of just running all over this town and causing
and
whatever.
Flying in your spaceship.
And flying, right. You're flying in your UFO spaceship and causing whatever wanton destruction you want to, right?
Yeah.
I was reading something that, like it sort of makes more sense in this game than in like, GTA, right? Because you're an alien invading. So it feels like it makes more sense to just, like, run around destroying things than when you just, like, random
dude.
criminal.
A criminal dude.
Yeah,
Doing
one
some
criminal
auto theft.
dude. Yeah.
Look, everyone's allowed to feel that destructive urge. It's not just aliens.
Everyone's allowed to, but we're not saying go drive a car off a ramp and into a ditch. I don't know.
Yeah.
I haven't played GTA. What do you do there?
Anyway, where all of the parody fun comes from is that Crypto is landing on Earth in 1959. And there's all sorts of parody of that era and of films of that era. And it's a game that has that kind of wry and sometimes gross a sense of humor.
Yeah.
One of your weapons, feel the need to just read the description straight from the Wikipedia article, is the anal probe, a powerful rod that goes into the victim's rectum and uproots a DNA-enriched brain. Sounds legit.
That is how aliens work.
Historically and scientifically, absolutely.
The one of the comedic touches that I did find kind of funny is, like, once you finish all your missions, they'll show you, like, the newspaper article that's, like, explaining it, and about half the time it's just because of communism.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, communism caused chaos. Which feels very true to the 1950s.
Yes. Anyway, there is a plot here. So in addition to Crypto being on Earth to, you know, harvest DNA by any means necessary, and while you're there, like, you know, on orders from your boss, Orthropox, aka Pox, all of the members of this species are named after, like, bacteria and diseases and stuff. Cryptosporidium, I looked it up, like, causes, like, stomach distress, I think more seriously than that, but I thought, like, what a fun day at work to decide what the character is going to be named.
Yeah.
Looking at bacteria names. But basically, you're in all sorts of different US towns, right? You're in one that's like a Roswell parody. You're in, like, area, like, it's 41 at some point. and eventually you make your way to the capital city, fake Washington, D.C., in pursuit of this other kind of organization called Majestic, which is itself a parody of some kind of alien organization that you're fighting against. And so ultimately, spoiler for a 15-year-old game, you kill the boss of Majestic and end up taking over the United States. This is going to be an interesting one. Not an interesting... Well, I wonder. So it's getting this, new remaster re-release coming out in 2020, in an election year, with this game that ends with Crypto, sort of multiple times killing the president. Once for real, and then once, a robot that's, controlled by the president's brain. And also all of Congress, and then taking over, posing as the president, this alien. But yeah, I do sort of wonder how a game that ends with you killing the president and taking over by aliens is gonna play.
I mean, I don't know. We have all these shows about either, action presidents, or there's that one with Kiefer Sutherland.
Right, Last Lone Survivor?
Designated survivor.
Thank you.
Right, it's based on the thing, somebody doesn't attend the State of the Union in case something bad happens. And he's that guy.
It's based on the law that Kiefer Sutherland doesn't attend the State of the Union.
He's banned. You know what you did, Kiefer. But we have all sorts of, levels of varying governmental distress or corruption in our TV shows. So I don't know if it's particularly different than that. It just handling it with a more farcical tone.
Yeah, but it's a video game. And we all know that video games are evil.
Was the president based on who was president in 2005?
There are definitely some jokes in there about Eisenhower, but the president's name is President Huffman or something.
Oh, right. Who was the president in 1958, I guess, is the more relevant question.
Eisenhower.
I don't know, Madelyn. I haven't taken U.S. history in 6 years.
Sounds like you're gonna fail the Jeopardy test.
I probably am. If I ever took it, I would fail it because I would answer, who built the pyramids?
The aliens!
The aliens! Alex?
These parody games are always sort of interesting to me because I just feel like it's a pretty thin premise to build a full game on. Which is fine for a game, honestly, like this one, where most of the fun is just, blowing stuff up, I guess, in various ways, and probing people in various orifices. Mm-hmm. But also, I'm always just sort of, one, astonished by games that do this and do it semi-successfully. Because I just feel like parody, in particular, is a difficult genre to maintain over any long amount of time. Even a parody film... Oftentimes, to me, feels like this is too much. The joke was made half an hour ago. So to have a video game like Destroy All Humans that not only did it, but did it, to the tune of several successful sequels and now a reboot 15 years later, is impressive.
I mean, it's a slightly, crasser version of the charm of, Untitled Goose Game, right?
I wouldn't call Untitled Goose Game a parody.
I just mean that's what the charm of the game is. It's not... It's like you're running around causing problems for all these people, right?
That's true.
These sort of quaint people. You're the element of chaos in their lives. It has a crasser sense of humor about it, but I think that's where the appeal comes from. I would also say... I would agree that if you're just, all the scary movies.
Yeah.
After the first one, even halfway into the first one, what's the point anymore? But I using a parody as a jumping off point for I wouldn't call making fun of 1950s era, like, communism fear and alien fear and all that sort of paranoia, like, shallow ground, necessarily.
That's true.
Like, you know, this is... I'm not saying this is a deep game, but... like, if you were to take it and do more with it, you could find things to do with it, I think. Right? Like, it's definitely sitting in the shallow water of it, but there's a topic there.
Oh, definitely. I don't know. I guess sort of what I'm thinking about here is video game humor in general. In that, I don't really feel like I've played too many video games that I would consider genuinely funny, or... Oh man, what did those kids say on the train that I talked about a while ago on the show?
It was like mad funny.
That's what I was thinking about. Because I was like, I feel like Destroy All Humans. I feel like those kids that I overheard on the subway who thought that Borderlands was the only game that was mad funny. Maybe they did think it was mad funny because it had swear words in it. I don't know that Destroy All Humans scratches that itch too much for them. Mm-hmm. But I do feel like it falls into the same kind of humor category as some of Borderlands stuff here.
Yeah, I'd agree.
The mad funny category.
Yes.
Which has never been a funny in video games that has played as super funny for me. Like, you know, whatever. I enjoy plenty of the combat of Borderlands, or at least I have in the past enjoyed it. I don't play it much now. But, it never has really registered to me as like, yes, this game is super funny.
Yeah. I find some comedy in Borderlands, but it's less so in the verbal humor, I think.
Well, like what?
I don't know, just like... I don't know how to describe it. I mean, it's not like the characters talking to me hardly ever makes me laugh.
Right.
But, I don't know. There's that element of chaos again, in that it is funny to get in a truck and be bad at it.
Yeah, and that's true. That is very true.
And sometimes I find, like, the gun descriptions funny.
Yeah.
Too. That's another example from that, if I had to pick something specific. But I mean, that's a huge, like, hot topic that people are talking about with, like, Untitled Goose Game too, in that, like, it's really hard for a game, and Untitled Goose Game manages to do this, to make you, like, an active participant in the humor and make it funny, because that's such like a uniquely video game way to do it, that most people fall back on the humor of TV shows and movies and stuff like that in terms of sticking the humor in the dialogue to either good or bad effect, right? Whereas it's a lot harder to come up with ways to actually make your playing of the game be funny.
Which makes sense, because so much of comedy is subverting expectations or finding ways to surprise you. Right. It's a little hard when you're doing it.
Right. Plus, it's like, I think I saw some article that I didn't read, but I saw the title of, like, games are entirely based around, like, giving you systems that will do what you expect them to do.
Yeah.
Right? Because when you're playing the game, you want things to happen as you intend them. Otherwise, in certain cases, that gets frustrating, right?
Right.
Like if the controls are drifty or something doesn't do what you expected it to do, that's things you want to avoid in games, but those are things that are part of humor at the same time. So they become diametrically opposed in that way.
Yeah. That's tricky. See, now I'm trying to think of, like, okay, how could I make my Switch controller drift funny? That would be pretty,
it is a little funny.
That would be pretty dark funny to have a game that acts like you have a drifty controller on the Switch, even though you don't. That would be pretty freaking black humor.
I don't think many people would find that funny.
I would find it funny from the outside. I would find it funny when Nintendo got 1 million Joy-Cons shipped in that did not need to be fixed.
Sure, yeah.
But you're right, the game itself would not be super funny. Oh well. I'm amused by it right now.
That's all you need.
Is not what counts. I'm like, I have found some of this is like graying the lines between what game we're talking about right now. But I've found some of my experience with Yakuza a little bit funny.
Oh yeah. I mean, Yakuza has strong writing.
Yeah.
Is the thing. At least overall it does.
Yeah.
And so it can find humor in certain things.
It's just a game where I've actually laughed at things that have happened on screen.
Yeah.
Which, is not something that, whatever. Maybe I'm playing games that are generally not necessarily targeted at being mad funny. But, Kingdom Hearts is funny.
Yeah.
Especially, the less deep into it you get. The more that you try to look at the surface of it, the funnier it is.
Yeah. Sure.
The more times you can get Goofy to pose for a picture. Honestly, that's the frontier, the front lines of humor in games right now is photo mode.
Yeah. Yeah. I've had a lot of fun in Dragon Quest XI's photo mode recently. Just a lot of fun in it.
Yeah. I wonder if you'd hope that that's something that they're hoping to take advantage of in the reboot of Destroy All Humans. A photo mode.
Yeah. I would love to see a photo mode. It feels like something that fits with this game.
Although, so it's 50s, right? So, what would be would it have to be, a 1950s, style photo? You couldn't have a digital camera.
You're an alien. You could have some alien tech.
I know, but wouldn't it be...
It's not like you have, ray guns in the 50s.
I know. I'm just thinking,
UFOs.
Wouldn't it be a little more fun to try to figure out some way that the photo mode is also a pastiche?
I guess so. I don't know how you do that, though.
I don't either. That's why I'm not developing it.
You just have you take 30 seconds to set up one of those
self-timers.
Yeah. No, I was thinking of what's the really old-fashioned camera where the photographer has to get
oh yeah, with the cape thing. Yeah, I know exactly what you were talking about.
Yeah. You have to set one of those up. And everything's still happening around it, so you can't time anything well.
You have to clone yourself again. And your clone is your personal photographer.
Right. That works better, yeah. You just order your clone to set up the camera for you.
Yeah. I don't know, when were Polaroids big?
I feel like that's after the 50s, but also I have no sense of time, right?
That would make this a difficult question for you.
I just don't know when things were invented.
Again, not going to pass the Jeopardy test.
I know the aliens built the pyramids. That's all I know.
Well, a Polaroid mode could be fun too, because then you'd have to shake it as you went and hold on to it.
True.
I also think that would mean that if you wanted to take, not even with just a Polaroid, just with any kind of period appropriate camera, you would have to take a selfie. You wouldn't get the screen would just go black. You would get to look at yourself looking at the camera, but you wouldn't get to see the camera. Feels like...
Pretty good.
Feels like there's a lot of comic potential here. I'm just throwing ideas out there. If any of this appears in the game, I will be upset.
Mm-hmm.
Destroy All Humans also has not $1 million, but several $100 collector's editions that you can pre-order.
I mean, every game has those nowadays, right?
Do they really? Maybe I'm just completely oblivious to it. But this was a $300 thing.
Oh, so I guess $300 is a little much, I guess, but it depends on the game too, right? It's not just the game; they're offering stuff with it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's not just the game. Imagine.
Every game comes with some sort of action figure pack. nowadays, which is what I would assume this one is.
Fair enough. I know. I just didn't think of Destroy All Humans as a game that anyone felt like that level of attachment. I mean, I guess
apparently a lot of people like played it in their childhood. So
Emma rolled her eyes at that.
I didn't. I was just thinking.
Thinking
no, I was just
very
gonna
much
say
up
like
to the
Destroy
ceiling.
All Humans. Mal, Destroy All Humans is somebody's Kingdom Hearts.
You mean somebody's
You know?
team buddies?
It's somebody's team buddies. That's even better. Yeah. If they were like, here's a $300 collector's edition of Team Buddies, you cannot say you wouldn't buy it.
If it was the only way to buy it, I might buy it.
I think you would even be tempted if it was like coming out remastered. You'd want that steelbook, you know?
No, I don't think I would. I think I'd have to get like a life-size Team Buddy.
What even is a life-size Team Buddy?
I don't know. You could, like, how big are the crates, right? They're like 2 crates high.
How big is the crate?
I don't know. That would be part of the joy of ordering it, is you would get to find out how big is a life-size Team Buddy.
Speaking of
Life-like recreations of things that may or may not exist.
What?
I was referring to the fake district of Tokyo, Kamurocho.
Yes. Judgment.
AKA what Emma just did when she couldn't figure out what I was talking about.
Judgment, also called Judge Eyes in Japan, which is the much better title in my opinion.
Judge Eyes would not sell a single copy in the United States.
I was more interested in it when it was Judge Eyes than when it was Judgment. I still got it, but
I'm just saying,
misspell it every time I write it down.
It's an interesting title. It's not as slick. Which
Judgment is very hard to search for, though. It doesn't have good SEO.
You know what? That's true, because Judgment was on your 15 games list for a while, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
So I had a real hard time finding stickers.
Yeah.
So I looked for Judgment stickers. That was
it might have been because it was new, but also, like, yeah, it's very hard to search for because it's just a word.
Yeah.
But it's still the newest game from Ryuga Gotoku Studios. I think next week it will not be because Yakuza 7 is coming out in Japan sometime this month. But it is a spin-off of sorts of the Yakuza series in that it still takes place in the city of Kamurocho, which is the famous location from the Yakuza games. It still uses that map, but it doesn't involve any of the Yakuza characters or even really like any of the... Well, I guess that still does have some aspects of the gangs, but it focuses on different areas of the cities. And it has a bit, some added gameplay mechanics as well to it. Because you play as a detective in this game. A former lawyer who was disgraced after a client that he got declared innocent was then found guilty of killing his girlfriend after getting out of jail. And if you don't know, getting a client found innocent is a very large deal in Japan. Which, like, whenever I hear the statistic, I'm like, this has to be an exaggeration. But no, it's just 99% of convictions end with a conviction, of arrests end with a conviction.
99% of convictions end with a conviction.
Yes. So you're following Yagami around after he is disgraced as a lawyer and he's picked up detective work. And you end up on the trail of a serial killer called the Mole. And you also do some side cases.
Yeah. You can also, apparently, according to one review, do a mock trial to see who ate the slice of cake.
Yeah, that happens in the main story, actually.
Oh, is that not a side quest? Neat.
No, it's a required side quest.
Incredible.
It's very important.
I mean, I figured. Anyway, Judgment came out in June of this year in the West, but like around the holiday this year, June of 2019. It is 2020 now.
Yeah.
In the West, but around the holidays of 2018 in Japan. It's from Sega. I mean, it's published by Sega.
Yes.
So you can also play a bunch of old Sega games in arcades in it, just like in the Yakuza series.
Yeah.
Had a bit of controversy around it in the spring of last year when one of the voice actors, Pierre Taki, was arrested for cocaine possession and was subsequently in something that, ties in semi-well with our censorship in games discussion from last week in the side quest, was subsequently completely scrubbed from the game.
Yes. They hired a new voice actor, and they made a original model for the character that he was based on. Because all these characters are modeled based on their actors, pretty much.
Yeah.
Which is also sort of the case in Yakuza, but is more the case in Judgment, in that it's the actors. It looks like the actors.
Well, Yakuza has been going on for so long that the technology was certainly not there in the beginning to model in the same way as you can now.
But they made an original model for the character and hired a new voice actor and totally replaced it throughout the game.
The discourse has been so much about crunch this week with all of the delays. Imagine what a pissed crunch team that was.
Yeah.
To have to, make a model from scratch and get the new voice actor all done. Imagine how pissed that team was.
Yeah, they pulled it from shelves for a while until they fixed it. So it was probably a big crisis over there. He was also the Japanese voice of Olaf.
Oh, I remember that too, yeah. Everything looks like Olaf.
Oh, no.
No, I did see some quote from one of the creative leads on the game, and he was like, controversy ultimately ended up probably having us sell more, so whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it did. Anything that gets you in the news, well, almost anything that gets you in the news, I think, is generally
Weren't we just talking about THQ Nordic?
Yeah. That one is probably not. I certainly am less willing to buy THQ Nordic games after that.
We would hope that the people who are less willing offset the people who are more willing.
Yes. Not that it's any of the developers' fault, really. So it does become complicated on that front. But it still was not good. But the famous actor in Judgment is the man who plays Yagami, whose name is escaping me at the moment. But he's basically, the way I've heard him described on almost every site that's talked about this is that he's Japan's Justin Timberlake. And that he used to be in a boy band, now does lots of acting stuff. It's considered pretty much a dreamboat.
You mean he's Japan's Justin Timberlake circa 2013?
I guess so, but he's older like Justin Timberlake.
I know, but what has Justin Timberlake done?
Trolls, obviously.
Except for Trolls. Except for that godforsaken song. And he had his Bon Iver album.
Yes.
The name is Takuya Kimura, by the way.
Right, Takuya Kimura. I always get it mixed up because it's Takayuki Yagami, and so the Taka at the front makes me conflate the two names.
Yeah.
But yes, the unfortunate thing about that is that there is no karaoke in Judgment.
Oh man.
Because like it is in Yakuza, because it would probably be far too expensive to get him to sing.
That's a shame. They should have dubbed in somebody else's singing voice.
Agencies in Japan just have especially his agency, just have very strict policies about, like, both using the visage of the performer and, like, certain aspects of what the performer does. So I imagine that they might not have even been able to dub in another voice actor for him, without also paying for, like, having him singing, having his visage singing.
Yeah, fair enough. So you actually played the game, so I want to ask you.
I played it to completion, actually. Not to 100%, but I finished the main story.
Yeah. So all of the reviews I was reading was like, this is basically a reskin of Yakuza. Like, it's a reskin of Yakuza. Reskin. It's like every single review used the word reskin, which was funny, I thought. So do you feel like it was mostly a reskin of the Yakuza games?
I mean, you could tell it's made by the same team, right? I honestly think that, like they should use Kamurocho in whatever games they want, because they have worked for decades on that, and it's a pretty incredible creation. So I have no resentment for them using Kamurocho as a setting for anything. But I don't know. I think Judgment has a bit of a different tone than Yakuza.
Right. So I saw that too, that Yakuza is certainly, and you have a great video discussing this on the YouTube channel. Yakuza is definitely characterized by its just over-the-top tone and just big ridiculousness energy everywhere. And that Judgment is a little bit more intimate, and the cast of characters is a little bit tighter.
Yeah, that's what I would say too.
But did you feel like that worked? Something I was picking up from some of the reviews, and so in preparation this week, I had made this, like, optimistic, like, sort of semi-resolution to try to play at least one of the games we talk about on the show. I feel like I can give myself half credit for this week. Because I have been playing Yakuza 0.
Yeah.
So, I've been running around at least 80s Kamurocho and with Kiryu, learning to do BDSM and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. That's not right. Being a dominatrix.
You're teaching someone to be a dominatrix, yeah.
Right. And teaching them how to be Yankees and all that fun nonsense. But in that, it feels totally fine that I'm, like, rolling around beating people up all the time. Like, it really feels like sometimes I straight up murder them on the street, and they're fine.
Yeah.
But, like, that kind of over-the-top energy plays because it's all kind of that tone. But it seems like in Judgment, you do a lot of the same beating people up, but the tone is a little bit different. Did you feel like that worked?
All the side stuff to do with, like, this one gang that's, like, harassing you does not work, and I wish that the Keihin gang was entirely eradicated from the game. I will say that. But, I mean, you pretty quickly piss off a lot of people in the game. Mm-hmm. Right? And you don't really run into people on the street until you've, like, started to piss people off. I noticed. So it's still kind of, it makes sense that people are coming up to you, I guess, because you pissed off, like, 3 Yakuza gangs.
What an idiot, but okay.
I know. Or you're, like, interceding in a bad situation or something to that effect.
Sure.
Right? So that didn't really bother me in terms of, like, running into people on the street. It didn't really bother me. And I really liked I think there's some of this in Yakuza too, but Judgment has this system where you make friends with people all through the city.
Yeah.
So you really feel like a local presence there, right? Like, Yakuza goes to other locations, and even though Kamurocho is like home base, it never, it's like, it's a setting for things to happen, but it doesn't necessarily feel like, you know, like Kiryu lives there.
Yeah.
I guess. Whereas with Yagami, it really feels like this is the place that he lives, and he doesn't really go anywhere else. So you make friends with all these people, and if you're fighting near them, some of them will come help you, or if you're like near their store, they'll throw something out to help you, to that effect, right? Like all the convenience store clerks that you've befriended, they're like, here, Yagami, here's a kebab to shove down this guy's throat.
Thanks.
So in that way, it also ties into like this, like I got a greater feeling of like community and like belonging in the city from Judgment, and I feel like they tried to tie that into the battles, I suppose. But I don't know. I think because I have slightly less attachment to Yakuza than I think the average game reviewer would, right? Just because they played them for reviews, probably, or have played them before, a lot of them. And I've only played bits and pieces of Kiwami and Zero. So I less went into Judgment like wanting it to be Yakuza, right?
Right.
I think that's probably where the major points of disappointment are, is that it's very Yakuza-like, but it's not Yakuza at the same time.
Yeah.
But I didn't think that made it lesser.
Yeah.
I suppose.
Well, a lot of the reviews were pretty lukewarm on the investigation mechanics, it seemed like. Which was also sort of a factor in there not being like, this is incredible, amazing.
Yeah.
And also, it seemed to me like the Kamurocho that they use in Judgment is the exact same, or almost the exact same, assets they used in Yakuza 6 the year before.
Well, it's set in the same time period.
Well, right, I mean, yeah, good for them. But also, I can imagine if you had reviewed Yakuza 6 and then went into this. Well, one, that was something else I wanted to talk about a little bit, because I can't really think of I was trying to think of, like, are there any games that I've played that really return to the same setting, where either they're really building on it or it's more or less the same every time. And I couldn't really think of anything off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
Like, certainly there are series that I've played where you return to the same place multiple times, but usually it's a different version of it, or it's not recognizable or familiar in the same way as I imagine if you've been playing this series for 15 years, this might be. I don't know. Can you think of anything?
I can't think of anything, no.
Which is, makes it all that much more impressive for them to have really developed this, like, fake Shinjuku, right? Like, that's what it is.
Yeah, it's Kabukicho, I think, which
right.
is in Shinjuku.
Yeah. Because, yeah, I'm enjoying, in Yakuza 0 right now, we're running around Sotenburi, which is, I found amusing.
Yes.
Doesn't have Running Man. Disappointed by that.
Yeah.
It was Judgment where you, went and visited, oh, shoot. What was it
Sushi Zanmai?
What? Yeah.
Sushi Zanmai Man?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thrilled to see him. He turned up, like, in a cutscene in the background, and I was like, what? Wait! It's Sushi Zanman Man.
When we visited Japan this May, we stayed right next to a Sushi Zanmai, where, if you aren't familiar with it, the mascot is like just like this like friendly kind of middle-aged man holding his arms out to you.
Yeah.
And so we would be greeted as we walked home from the train each day by a Sushi Zanman welcoming us home.
He welcomed us home. And as for the investigation mechanics, I don't know. Like, there's still that remnants of absurdity in Judgment from Yakuza. And I think that if you're taking it too seriously, I can see how the investigation modes might be a little bit like, eh.
Yeah.
But I really found a lot of humor in trailing people.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, it's just so... Like, you can unlock, like, increasingly ridiculous costumes, for one thing. So you can just trail everybody in your vampire costume if you want to. But, like, they're pretty bad at noticing you. Right? So you don't have to really try too hard at it. You just have to not lose them in the crowd. That's sort of the key. So there are a lot of times when I'd, like, lose them in a place with a lot of corners, so I would just sort of, like, sprint through the area until I found them, and then quickly duck behind a corner until I forgot I was there. Which, yeah, like, isn't very realistic, but it's kind of funny at the same time.
Oh, well. Stealth.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's a perfect game, or even that it's necessarily as good as, like, Yakuza 0, which I've heard nothing but, like, stellar raves about, even though I've never finished it. But it's certainly its own thing, and I don't know, I found the story satisfying. And it does seem like a nice way for them to, like, get themselves out of the Kiryu mindset as they move on to other stories in Yakuza itself. Right, like, I imagine it was a nice exercise for the developers.
Oh, yeah. For sure. So, mashing up these two games.
So, you're an alien detective. In that you're searching for aliens among people.
Okay.
So you're like a tinfoil hat type dude.
Okay.
Only it's treated, like, with, like, intense seriousness, right? Like, you, like, this is serious business. You're looking for aliens. They are here to destroy all humans.
Uh-huh.
Only you, in your impressive investigation work, can put a stop to it.
Intriguing. I might want to try to go the other way with it, though.
Where you're an alien detective. Where you're an alien who is a detective? Is that what you mean?
Well, you're an alien who's in Kamurocho.
Okay.
And not only are you destroying pieces of Kamurocho, but you're also looking for a specific member of the Yakuza who has something in their brainstem that you need, like the mother DNA. And also doing fun side missions along the way.
Okay. See, I feel like you just, like, turned Kiryu into an alien, though, and have made Yakuza.
Kiryu doesn't blow up Kamurocho.
Well, yes, but you've supplanted an alien in that role, and that's all you've done. Right?
I guess.
Like, that's a lazy form of the mashup, Mal. We're supposed to be coming up with a new concept here.
I
not
thought
just
that blowing up this
an
city
alien.
that these people have developed meticulously over the past 15 years.
They're still using it. They can't blow it up.
It's not canon. At the end, Kiryu wakes up and is like, oh man, thank God I quit the Yakuza. And that's it.
You can't just write Yakuza fan fiction. That's not the purpose of the crossover, Madelyn.
It's not Yakuza fan fiction. That was just so that Kamurocho wouldn't really be blown up.
But that's what you're doing, though. You have to make a new game, okay? That's what I was trying to do, and you can critique that idea.
Fine, you're the tinfoil hat guy, but you have all the, like, you're doing anal probes on people instead of normal investigation. Like, you don't do normal investigations. You have, like, weird things.
Sure.
You're not working in enough of the destroy all humans open sandbox destroying things, I think.
Okay, so, like, destroy all humans is more mission based. So maybe you have, like, you get, like, reports like alien spotted, in this region. Like, initially the thing is, like, you're supposed to just try to identify them, but, like, it always devolves and you end up sort of exploding the building that you're in. Or something to that effect.
Okay.
So, like, you have the noblest of intentions, but you're just kind of bad at your job, right?
Right.
And the aliens always pretty much get the better of you. Even as you think, like, you're
right.
You're saving the world.
So you're trying to prevent the aliens from enacting destruction, but ultimately...
By doing that, you're enacting destruction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in the end, you discover that aliens have been controlling you all along.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the twist ending.
Through microwaves.
It's like those Silent Hill endings, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like your character, every time you go back to, like, one of, like, the fun quirks of your character is that every time you go back, you make, like, microwave instant noodles.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, that's how you're getting your instructions.
Right. Yeah, they're, like, putting it into your brain. Yeah. That's good. I think that's pretty good, to be honest.
I do, too. You have to have, like, there'd be fun, different fighting styles you could do.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have a ray gun.
Yeah, you've stolen it. That's like your one success, right?
Yeah.
Like in the first mission, you like steal a ray gun off an alien.
Nice.
But it's power beyond your control, right? So like whenever the ray gun comes out,
things are gonna go poorly.
Yes.
That's fun. I like that.
I think you could make that be funny, too.
Yeah.
In terms of, like... You'd have to be careful with it, because it's kind of like a sense of irony in that, like, your character thinks that they're doing, like, a great job, right? But you, as the player, have to sort of be aware that you're causing chaos, but also feel fondness for the character at the same time. Right?
It's like, you could try to spin it one way that you, the player, are also not really aware of how much chaos you've caused until the end, when we see, like, a stack of news reports about these, like, alien destruction that you realize is all caused by you.
I wonder if I like that idea, but I wonder how you would balance it, because you don't want to play it too serious throughout the game either. Right?
No,
like, you don't
really
want this
serious.
to be, like, some, like, deep twist, right, at the end. Like, you want it to be more funny than, like, you know, like, shocking, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to play it like a tragedy, right? Like...
Well, no. I mean, you couldn't, though, because the big twist at the end is you're being controlled by microwaves.
I'm sure somebody could try to play it that way. Okay, and I would watch that show. Probably.
Yeah. Oh, and obviously, so the alien tin hat guy would have to be, you know, voice acted and modeled on somebody famous.
Justin Timberlake.
No. No.
He needs a job, Ballot.
No. If he did that, Can't Stop the Feeling would have to be the... Actually, that would be pretty good if at the end, like, there was, like, a you're being controlled by the aliens sequence set to Can't Stop the Feeling.
Yeah. That's a good song for that.
I would hate that a lot.
But it's good. It's good, and it's a hate in a good way.
You could do karaoke in the game, but it could only be to Can't Stop the Feeling.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't like that.
And it's inexplicably like a Trolls product placement too. So like when it does like the music video portion of it, it's just like the Trolls movie.
Well, it's revealed at the end that the aliens look like the Trolls.
That's good.
And the true name of the game is actually Trolls the Game.
I like that. It was a Trolls game all along.
Who knew?
No, I think we've hit on something promising here.
Yeah.
Maybe without the trolls, but...
It take place in Troll Morocho. No one would ever, you know, explain it till the end.
Oh, dear.
Camuro Troll.
Camuro Troll.
Well, on that extremely commercially promising note, Thanks, everybody, for tuning in to this week's episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
We've loved talking about Destroy All Humans and Judgment. I almost said and Troll Morocho. That's where my head is at. And we'll be back in a couple weeks talking about an old game and a new game that we're going to pull from our virtual hat right after I talk to you about how you can keep up with the show. So the easiest way to do it, I think, is to follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talk This Podcast, and we're on YouTube at Talk This Sisters. Particularly pertinent this week is Emma's Play This video, where she talks about, which Yakuza game is it in that? Is it Yakuza 0?
What?
Which Yakuza game do you talk about in the YouTube video?
I think it's just the series in general, but Yakuza 0, yeah.
Yeah, so when Emma talks about the Yakuza series and its use of tone, is one of my favorite episodes of Play This. So it's a good week to check it out, because it might give you a little bit of taste of some of the stuff we were talking about is a little different in Judgment. But yeah, follow us on social media for all the updates. You can also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can see the games that are in the hat and maybe suggest a few yourself. And read what's up on our blog, where you can follow long-running series Clickbait Boyfriend, which I'm going to post the last edition for normal Kingdom Hearts 3 this week, and then we'll soon have a new edition with the DLC coming soon.
Yeah!
Can't wait. Feel like there's going to be some real classic Clickbait Boyfriend quotes, and also just some throttled screaming. So it's going to be good stuff. And also Split Screen, where we're woefully behind, or I am anyway, on My Hero Academia, and we're also watching K-drama Coffee Prince. Finally, if you really never want to miss an episode of the show and want to support, you should subscribe. We are on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, Overcast, Pandora Podcasts, both online and on the app. Pretty much anywhere that you can find a podcast, you can find Talk This. So leave a rating and a review while you're there if you're feeling generous. And you'll always get a little notification when the show goes live on Sundays at noon. So Emma, you ready to pull some games from the hat for our next
ready.
Main edition in 2 weeks?
Yep. So, our old game is going to be Star Fox.
Alright. True classic.
Yes. And our new game is going to be Apex Legends.
Alright. I have definitely played Apex Legends.
So look forward to that in 2 weeks.
It's gonna be good. But next week, tune in for our side quest, where this time we'll be talking about what we've played for the last 7 weeks.
Yep.
Depending on when we record it, it may or may not be all Kingdom Hearts.
Yep. We'll have to see.
Who am I kidding? When we record it, we record these live on Sundays at
I know. I'm doing this on a plane next week.
It was crazy. Everyone around Emma is pretty pissed about it. But yeah, tune in then. We played, for once, I really feel like I don't have to cram in a bunch of games. I have played a bunch of games in the past 7 weeks. So that'll be fun. And then in 2 weeks, we'll talk about Star Fox and Apex Legends. It's going to be a good time.
Heck yeah.
All right. That's it from us this week, listeners. Emma, you want to send the people off with some good wishes?
This week, I hope that you are not destroyed.